Did you make any New Year's resolutions this year?
No.
Do you ever make New Year's resolutions?
I do. I usually try and do something that improves my life.
Is everything just perfect right now, so you don't need to make any?
Exactly. I've got no complaints. I just didn't give it any thought this year. It came too fast. But statistically speaking, this is the time of year when everybody drops their New Year's resolutions. It's literally called National Quitters Day.
Today, we're here to rescue your reading life.
We're sharing books that are short, unputdownable,
Those are my favorite.
comforting, and just really easy to get back into. Basically, books that make you want to read again.
No guilt, no pressure, no you should read this, just pure slump busters.
Yes. Welcome back to Espresso Shots and Epic Plots. I'm Diana.
And I'm her daughter Genevieve. Grab your favorite beverage and let's get you out of that slump. Not you, you're not in a slump. The first category is what I call unputdownable page-turners. So these aren't necessarily short books, they're just books that are so good you will want to just keep reading them. Yeah.
In fact, the first one, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, is literally not just unputdownable. I almost went back to the beginning to read it again right away just because of the twists and turns.
Yeah.
It's kind of a classic hooky thriller kind of book.
No, I would agree. I didn't want to go back and read it again after I read it, but it really was, I couldn't stop reading it. I had to know what was going on.
I had to know what was going on. If you've ever watched The Sixth Sense and then you figure out what's going on, that was a movie. It was like, I got to go back because how did I not know that until that point?
If you're unfamiliar with this book, it is a book told from the perspective of a psychologist, I think. Yeah, so a psychologist, and he has this patient, a female patient, that isn't speaking for some reason, and throughout the book you are trying to figure out why she's not speaking, what happened, what their interaction with each other is, like how he ended up with this patient. And I feel like that's all we should say, because
I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, you don't want to go into this book knowing a lot. The next one on the list is actually, there's going to be a caveat to this. If you're not really into the thriller type of mystery book, then I really do like the Robert Langdon books by Dan Brown. I would say the first four, I think, fall into this unputdownable category. So these are much more of a historical twist, and they are a thriller. There's a mystery in that you're trying to figure out what's going on, but it's not murder mystery. It's more of
what's the story behind?
Yes, like adventure mystery.
Done with a lot of history and clues. And
They follow symbologist, which I don't even know if that's a real thing, but symbologist Robert Langdon, and he's the one that's trying to solve all of these ancient mysteries using his knowledge of symbols. But in my opinion, the last two books were not as good. There was a couple times when I read the last book that I was like, oh my God, is this over yet? The Da Vinci Code was technically the second book.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, Angels and Demons. Angels and Demons is the first one. The Da Vinci Code was the second one. But that's the one that got everybody interested in them.
Okay, what's this Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney?
I thought you've read that one. You haven't read that one?
I don't think so.
So this is another one similar to The Silent Patient, where you have what I might call an unreliable narrator, maybe. I don't know if that... so it's a psychological thriller where you're hearing a story from one character's point of view and you're trying to figure out their relationship to all the other characters. The husband is, I forget what it's called. He has that disorder where he can't connect faces and names.
Face blindness, basically.
Yeah, face blindness.
But there's a more technical term for it.
Yeah, there is. I can't remember what it is. And you're trying to figure out, and one of your main characters can't recognize faces, and so that obviously
your whole life would be a mystery.
Yeah, ups the ante, and so that's all I'm going to say about that one. I thought you haven't read that one. I thought you'd read that one.
I don't believe so.
Oh, you should read it. You would like it.
I bet I would.
You did read If Something Happens to Me. Alex Finley writes thrillers that, again, they're more modern psychological thrillers. Every Last Fear is about a family that was on vacation in some other country, I can't remember where exactly, and the entire family dies, except for they have a son that's in college, so he wasn't there, and he's trying to figure out what happened to his family. And you find out that something had happened to his brother. He has a brother in jail in the past. And so you're trying to figure out if all those pieces are tied together.
Okay.
If something happens to me is there's a guy that's dating this girl when they're younger, they're teenagers. They go out to, you know, I don't know, the place where you go to make out with somebody, and he gets knocked out and wakes up and she's gone. It jumps forward in the future. He's been cleared of, like, everybody thinks he did it, but he's been cleared. He's trying to live his life, but they pull up the car. They find her car or something like that, and they find a letter that says, if something happens to me.
And the letter is hidden in, like, her compact
it's
or
in
something.
The car. Yeah, it survived, whatever.
It survived, yeah.
And so a lot of his books are very, like, there's time jumps and you're trying to figure out what happened in between that time jumps. So just really good hooky thriller, like you have to get to it because you want to know what happened. So,
and then we would both put Blood Over Brighthaven in by M.L. Wang.
It's not as unputdownable. Like, there are definitely points where I could, like, put it down, but the beginning hooked me so much that I definitely knew I wanted to keep reading. And then there's another, like, plot twist halfway through that you're like, oh, now I need to know more. But that's more of the fantasy sci-fi realm, so not quite the thriller mystery like some of the other ones were. And then we've both read a few books by Leanne Moriarty. I read The Husband's Secret and What Alice Forgot. Which ones have you read? I think you read the one about the apples, right?
Oh yeah, apples never fall far from the tree.
And then there was the one with the butterfly on the cover. One Moment, Here One Moment.
Oh, Here One Moment.
Is that what it was called?
The apples never fall. I really liked that one in that it was a mystery, but it had a nice ending. I don't want to give away too much.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Murder, death, and mayhem were not part of the story.
Right, yes. I
guess is the best way for me to say it.
That's true for all. And a lot of hers have almost like this speculative, like Here One Moment is about a bunch of people finding out when they're going to die, right? Isn't that... They're all on a plane and they find out exactly the moment.
Woman. That was a good one.
What Alice Forgot is, like, it jumps forward and this woman goes from having one life to now she's living, like, I think it was like 5 or 10 years in the future, and her life is totally different and she doesn't remember. So she has some sort of what I would call speculative or realistic, where they don't explain why, but it's not like fantasy out there. But again, you want to keep reading because you want to know what happened. So
I think her characters are very relatable. It's almost like, oh, I could see that happening to me. And
ironically, did you watch Big Little Lies?
Yeah.
Okay, but I never read it. I watched the book, or I watched the show, but I never read the book of hers. So
that one had murder in it, didn't it?
That one did have murder in it, actually. But again, so a lot of hers, it is that
it's
domestic,
a mystery.
It's a domestic thriller, like
mystery.
Those are our unputdownable page-turners. So you'll get hooked. You'll read a couple more by those same authors, because a lot of these authors have multiple books actually.
This next one is Effortless and Comforting.
So what do you mean by effortless?
Just you don't have to think too hard when you're reading it. You don't have to keep track of things.
Yeah, you don't have to take notes while you're doing it. Yeah,
unless like you, where you
Nope, there's some of these that I probably wouldn't take notes while I was reading. I don't annotate every book that I read.
Oh, I wondered. I thought maybe
I don't annotate my library books, I'll put it that way.
Well, I would hope not. Finley Donovan is Killing It by Ellie Cosimano.
Sure, that sounds good to me.
It's a cozy mystery plus a humor.
So this is a series where there's a woman she's an author, and she's trying to write her next book, and somebody I think she's in like a Panera or something, and somebody overhears her plot and thinks...
she's describing it to her editor.
Yes, but thinks that she is a real life...
spy or not
contract killer.
Yes.
And hires her...
assassin.
Yeah, and hires her to kill her husband, and she's down on her luck. Her husband has left her. She doesn't have any money because she hasn't written this book yet, and so she needs to come up with a quick way to get money. And so she ends up in these completely unrealistic books where you stop thinking and you suspend your disbelief.
Yes.
And the second one, it continues that same narrative. I think you and I only read to the second one because at some point we personally can only suspend our disbelief so much. But I think she's coming out with like the 6th or 7th one with Finley Donovan.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I would say they remind me of Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh yeah.
They're
very, one problem leads to another.
Yeah, and none of it is realistic.
Yeah.
The Aunties books are kind of like that too. The
Four Aunties.
Yeah. That's another series that's in that same vein. The next one I know you haven't read. So Catherine Center, she's a rom-com, kind of book. Her first rom-com was The Bodyguard. I think some of her other ones get into like deeper, heavier topics that I would not call effortless and comforting, but The Bodyguard is just there's a male actor. I think he's an actor and he's going to go home, but there's been a threat on his life, so he needs a bodyguard. Well, he doesn't want his family to know that he's at risk, so they get him a female bodyguard that pretends to be his girlfriend. And it's kind of fun to
the flip side of the Whitney Houston movie.
Yes, but much more light-hearted and not as heavy as the Whitney Houston.
Yeah, the Whitney Houston
that bodyguard.
Okay, another one that I think we both read was Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. What a fun name to say. It's quirky, a little emotional.
Yeah, do you remember what it's about?
She is, I remember
something happens every time on her birthday.
She doesn't live life in sequential order. Yes, every birthday it was almost like was it like not a curse, but...
I don't think you really need to know why it's happening. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like there's, or what, it's more about her getting to experience all of her lives out of order and the decision. So one year she's like in her 40s and the next year she's in her 20s and
it goes for a year.
She lives that whole year.
And doesn't she get to go back and like reflect on why she fell in love with this person? Or
I mean, she's doing everything out of order, so she, and she knows when it's going to begin and end.
Right,
so,
which I think helps. I think it would just be downright Alzheimer-esque otherwise. But it was random sequence. It wasn't like Benjamin Buttons or anything like that. It was just random.
She bops all around.
She didn't know how old or...
And there is some like soul searching and life growing that has to happen. And there was a conclusion, there was an end. It's not just the whole book is out of order. So it does have like a cohesive narrative. None of these books are books that I would say are like 5-star Emmy Award winning movie type book. You know what I mean? So these are all definitely like, you take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
You read them to get the fluff. Similarly, Beth O'Leary, I really like a lot of Beth O'Leary's. Again, they're rom-coms, they're romance, but they're not, it's not pure spice. There's relationships. They really they hook you. The Flat Share, they actually turned the Flat Share into a series, but that's where there is two people living in a studio apartment, but he works the night shift, she works the day shift.
So they
literally share a bed. They live in a studio apartment and they can do it because they're never there at the same time, which is, again, not really realistic. but they leave Post-it notes everywhere to leave each other messages. The Road Trip is another one of those where you see a relationship where they are coming together for a friend's wedding and they have broken up, and then the next chapter is them meeting each other. And so it's just about they had this like really good connection, but you also know that they're now broken up, and so you're trying to figure out why.
Okay.
They're much more like character development, relationship type of rom-coms more than like, let's get it on.
Yeah. Lastly, we have Legends and Lattes. It's also part of a series. I've read the two, The Bookshops and Bone Dust and Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Low stakes, classic cozy. This is a book where, like, I have the third one now, and I'm going to be reading that after what I'm reading now. It's like snuggling down in a dark den, and
And I like these because they have enough of a plot that you're interested. They're not so fluffy and cozy that you are not. There's actually a plot to follow. So yeah,
it is fantasy.
Those would be our effortless and comforting, because if you don't have to work too hard, like, you know, when I read Babel, I definitely needed to think and take notes and stuff like that. But
and Legends and Lattes, those Travis Baldree book were small books, weren't they?
Yeah, they're not very long. Yeah. These are all definitely, they're not tomes. They're not.
If you get a
chunkers.
snow day you weren't expecting and don't have anything planned.
Yeah, you could pick one of these up.
Yeah, one of these would be good.
Yeah, that's a good transition into books that are short but also satisfying.
Yes.
I've read quite a few novellas in 2025. Some of them are hard to feel like a complete story. I would say these ones, they do feel like a complete story within each of them. Both of us are making our way through the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. So the first one was All Systems Red. And I feel like those are perfect. I could read one in a day, 2 days if I wanted to, you know, stretch it out. And none of them that I've read were cliffhangers. Like, you could read it and take a
fabulous.
break. Yeah.
Apple Plus TV had done All Systems Red. That series just took that one book. I was surprised because I had read some of the follow-up books. I like the way that they're doing it that way. It's a series that I kind of like how it's stretched out.
Yeah.
Because I'm enjoying it so much, and yet it has what feels like a nice wrapped up ending, and yet the next book picks back up and has some similar characters, and
the characters grow and develop from each book, so you don't just feel like you're reading the same thing over and over again, but you don't have to jump into the next one right away if you don't want to.
Yes, exactly.
I think a lot of T. Kingfisher's fantasy books fall into that, and she has quite a few short novellas. The one that I would recommend is Thornhedge. So that's a retelling of, I think it's technically a retelling of something along the lines of like a combination of Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel. I was like, the girl with the hair. I think it's supposed to be more Sleeping Beauty, but her retellings are not direct correlation retellings. There's a lot of like fairy tale overlap. But that was another short. I think I'd listened to it in a day, and I read it like between listening and reading it. I did it within a day, and it was a nice, cozy, like, you loved all the characters. You wanted to just give them all a hug.
The Psalms for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This was more of a, if you're feeling down and you feel like life has no meaning, you pick this book up and you read it, and it's lessons. It is lessons on a good way to look at life.
It's utopian future, not dystopian future.
Which is, that's a genre, I don't know, maybe I should explore it, but it's always a dystopian future that we have. There's, you know, it's a Holocaustal, everyone's dying or dead, genocide, and it's nice to have a more of a positive outlook on the future.
She has some other more sci-fi-y novellas that lots of people recommend you and I should check out. Becky Chambers says you and I should check out. The next one I think only I have read, The River Has Roots by Amal El Motar. This is, I highly recommend this audio actually. And it's a lyrical palate cleanser, which is why I recommend the audio, because it's about two sisters that live near the edge of Fae and the real world, and they kind of act as a bridge between the Fae and the real world and the magic of the Fae, and they do it through song. The book has a lot of verses, and the audiobook actually sings them, and there's music and things like that. It was a quick one, and at the end of it, they actually had some short stories that were teasers for a book that El Motar has coming out this year that I actually I want to check out.
The other one you have listed is The Test by Sylvian Nuelville.
So I will say this one is definitely, this one's short, but not effortless. This one is going to involve, you're going to use your thinker. And when I finished it, I was a little uncomfortable at the end, but like so this is about it's thought-provoking. That's the word I'm looking for. This is a future where the story is about a man who is taking an immigration test, and I believe he's in the UK. I want to say he's in England. While he's taking the test, something happens, and a lot of the book is told, it's not just told from his point of view, but it starts out, you're like in his head and you're learning a little bit about his history and his past, but there is a sci-fi AI component to it. So this is not your regular immigration test. And so this event happens and he's presented with some moral decisions that
moral
determine
dilemmas.
Yes, moral dilemmas that play into the whole aspect of the book.
That does sound
it is more of, I don't want to say it's dystopian, but it's more of that like AI, humans getting a hold of AI and not using it for necessarily good purposes or whatever. So it's not light and fluffy, but it was very quick, very sharp, and made you think, made me want to have conversations about that kind of stuff.
I like those books.
Yeah.
The bite-sized nonfiction is a good way to get kick-started in the new year.
What do we mean by like bite-sized nonfiction? Because a lot of times people think nonfiction and they're like, oh, I got to read about this war or something like that. So what do we think bite-sized?
To me, it's a book that is maybe broken up into bite-sized pieces so you can set it down, you can have it sitting in the bathroom. Each chapter or section covers the topic. Yeah. Will my cat eat my eyeballs?
Yeah, this was one we used in our cover book.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
cover challenge. These were, so Caitlin Doty is a mortician, and so these are questions that kids have asked her, and adults I think too, have asked her about death and dying. So each chapter is information about the human body or about embalming or about death rites. Even like there's one chapter about Vikings, like did Vikings actually burn people on the pyre? And so it is very like you can read a chapter, it's very episodic, and she's very humorous, and it's not a downer, you know, it's like it focuses very much on the anatomical aspects of death and embalming and those types of things. Why don't you talk about Mary Roach?
Any of the Mary Roach books I could recommend for a bite-sized type of reading. Stiff, which is about what happens to bodies.
Cadavers.
Yeah. She talks about like when you're embalmed and put into a very high dollar casket. Mm-hmm. She talks about cadavers that donate their bodies to science. Mm-hmm. And so each chapter or section covers just that little bit. And then Gulp is all about what happens when you eat something, how your body deals with it, how each piece of the body,
I almost feel like each chapter was like a spot on the digestive
it works its way all the way.
What I would call almost like humorous memoirs. Tina Fey's Bossy Pants was hilarious, and it is a memoir, but each chapter is about like it's very like I remember one chapter was about when she adopted her child, and there's another chapter about like incidents of motherhood, and there's other chapters about her working on her various shows. So it is very like you can pick it up and put it down. It's not like you're reading this story arc of her life or anything. And she's hilarious, and so I remember reading it and thinking it was so funny. And then I think shortly after I read that, I also read a bunch of Mindy Kaling's books too, because another female comedian that, you know, it was very similar, where it was like you can read it little bits and laugh.
I've been wanting to read Bossy Pants, but I did read Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson. She has another one called Broken,
which I've read too. I've read both of them.
She went through quite the trauma growing up and has dealt with it through humor.
I was going to say it's more a unique upbringing. I wouldn't say she went through trauma.
I don't know. Having a dead puppet squirrel pop out of a cereal box was pretty traumatic.
Abused by her parents or something that.
It was. She talked about having her turkeys follow her to school, and my nieces were given turkeys by their father. I think it was more of a way to punish his ex-wife. And I was in tears because I remember my nieces having these turkeys and having to deal with them.
Jenny Lawson's books, they're almost like essays. Like each chapter is an essay, especially in Broken. A lot of them are funny and you laugh till you cry kind of deal. But there are some, she has a lot of like mental health issues and issues with medication and dealing with insurance. And those, I think those bits, they keep you hooked. They keep it real. It's not all just like humor, so you know she's a real person.
Right.
What about Michael Pollan? Do you think Michael Pollan fits in this
I
list?
have tried telling people, oh, you got to read a Michael Pollan. It's about food. And you just see people glaze over because they think it's a recipe book or it's an anti-diet du jour.
Oh, yeah.
He's not. He really writes beautifully. His subject is thoroughly researched. Yeah, I would definitely put Michael Pollan in. He is bite-sized, cooked. He goes through the history in order of how we process our food and how it's impacted us as a species.
Maybe he's a good transitionary, like as you're moving out of your slump. The other benefit of his books, a lot of them have been turned into documentaries.
Yes,
and so you could read it and then watch it too.
I see him all the time referenced as an expert. I do like a good Michael Pollan book, and he has transitioned beyond the eating food. One of his last ones was How to Change Your Mind.
A lot of them, his last couple of books have been about hallucinogenic drugs.
Yes, it's about the mushrooms and LSD and the marijuana plant and
it's how these things you consume interact with your body.
That's exactly. Even the other ones are how they interact with your body,
or how they've shaped us as a culture and as a people. His outside of memoirs, a lot of the nonfiction that I read is human science based because that is an area that I'm interested in.
So if you're in a reading slump right now, we hope that one of these books will get you right back into it.
And if you're not in a slump, save this video because January gets to all of us eventually, even if it's not in January.
We'd love to know what books you're using for winter blues busters.
Drop it in the comments so that we can steal your ideas, add it to our TBRs, check them out, or let others steal your ideas because I'm sure we haven't talked about all of them.
If you like cozy book chats or reading challenges or lots of very strong opinions about fictional people,
make sure you like and subscribe so that you can join us for our next video. Until then,
happy reading! The Silent Patient by Michael.
I said it too soon. Did you read the second one too? I think we both read the second one.
What was the first one?
Finley Donovan is killing it.
We'll put that on our TBR
list.
just
what we need more books.
Did you know we're donuts? I mean, that's the one thing I got out of that.
I tell my students that every time we talk about the digestive system, they don't ever get it. And I try to use the analogy of like a glazed donut. They don't. They just look at me and then there's crickets
and then they're
like,
glazed.
Yeah, then their eyes glaze over. Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested in food.
Who isn't?
I know.